What is up, YouTube? Nitro Kid 98 back with another video today. And before we get started, if you're new to the channel, you like SRT4 content, how-to videos, parts reviews, anything like that, you're gonna want to hit that subscribe button down there. Make sure you hit the little bell. You're not gonna want to miss anything on this channel because we got an absolutely awesome year ahead of us. So today, guys, what we're gonna be doing is putting a gauge pod in the SRT4. Now this gauge pod is gonna have an innovate lc2 wideband. It's gonna have a glowshift oil pressure gauge and a glowshift water temp gauge. Now I know the SRT4 already comes factory with a pretty decent water temp gauge, but I'm gonna put another one in there just to be safe, and it's actually gonna measure at a different point than the factory SRT4, just so I can have a little bit better idea of where my temps are. Now before we start actually installing the gauge pod, what I'm gonna go ahead and do first is take out the driver's side seat, because I'm gonna need to be able to get that O2 for the wideband down into the downpipe, and that'll give me a little bit more room to work and just make things a lot easier in the long run. So we got the seat out of the SRT4, and I must say that's a whole lot easier when you got a quick release steering wheel. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the center console out and some of the interior trim so we can get to the wiring, and plus so we can get to where we're gonna run the O2 through to get it into the downpipe. And no, that was not bolted in. I don't think it's been bolted in since I've owned the car. And also, while doing this, I know I really need to vacuum this thing. So I got the carpet peeled back. Right about there is where we're gonna be drilling to put in the O2 for the downpipe. And here is the bung where we're going to be putting the downpipe, or the O2 for the wideband into the downpipe. That's about 32 inches away, which is about what Innovate says you should do. They say a little further won't hurt either, but that's about exactly where they want it, so that's what we're going to be doing. So let's go ahead and drill this hole. I can't get up. I can't get up. As you can see, we started drilling and then the battery in the drill died. Hopefully this will get us through. Come on now. Work with me. Alright, I don't think that's gonna be enough. Here's the O2. Now for the question, does it fit? And like a glove. I was actually afraid I might have cut too much. We didn't, so what I'm gonna do is now I'm gonna take this thing, put it away, get everything hooked up, and then we'll calibrate it. So we got the gauge pod and the gauges kind of chilling up there. It's not actually held in very well. A lot of that is because I don't have a headliner to help hold it a little bit. I'll explain why that is in another video. But this right here is the wire that I have wired everything positive to. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take the top of the dash off, run it all the way over and down here, and I'm gonna wire it into the positive of the cigarette lighter, because that is a 12-volt switch. This is not the ideal way to do it. If you have time to do it a better way, do it a better way, but I never use the cigarette lighter, so it's just an easy source for me to tap into instead of having to go through all the ignition mess and anything like that. So that's what I'm gonna be using. So let's get the dash. We got it. Okay, so the wires ran all the way down through there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm basically gonna peel some of this tape back, cut it, splice it, solder it, and we're good to go. So there it is, guys. It's all good and ready. Now I didn't realize till like halfway through all this I had forgot shrink wrap. So I just wrapped electrical tape around it extremely tight, extremely well, so I don't have to worry about it grounding out or anything later on. So I know everybody's gonna like bust me for that. Trust me, I'm as ashamed of myself as you guys are. Now let's go ahead and put the cigarette lighter, everything like that back in. We can start putting the dash back together and wiring up everything else for the wideband, and then we get to run everything through the firewall. I cannot wait to actually get that over with, because I really don't look forward to doing that. now what we're going to do is run the signal wires for the water temp and oil pressure gauge to the firewall. I thought this was going to be an absolute pain in the butt, which it normally is. It's not always the hardest thing, but it's not the easiest by no means. But it did get a little easier for the fact the original owners ran a audio system in this thing. I don't know what they had, but anyways, this goes through the firewall. Where I'm actually was going to run stuff through the firewall, getting my hands there was going to be kind of a pain in the butt. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cut this. I'm going to tape the wires, the signal wires to it, and then feed this from the other side through the firewall. That making my life a whole lot easier. Alright, so everything's got power and it's ready to go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the lc2 and we're going to calibrate this sensor before we put it in. So let's do that. Power it on. Right, there we go. Let it do its little flashes. Then we're going to turn the car off. Now what we're going to do, since we've indicated that it doesn't have an O2, it knows that. Then we're gonna plug the O2 sensor in. Just want to keep it away from gas or anything when you do that that can make it do wrong. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the plastic off, open it up to oxygen, and we're gonna power it back up. Now the little box should do its green. 2 seconds, and this can last a little bit. Now, I wouldn't recommend like actually holding your hand anywhere near the O2. It is a heated O2. It's not gonna get that hot, but at the same time, don't want to take any chances. All right. All right, so there it is. It went solid green. It let me know that it is fully dialed in. It is calibrated. It's ready to rock and roll. So now we're gonna go up under the car and install the O2. Now before you unhook your O2 from it, what you wanna do is you wanna make sure you power the car down, unhook it, then put your O2 in place, then hook everything back up. So right here, let's get the O2 sensor in. And there we go. I ain't gonna crank down too hard on it. And what you hear is that connector up top, where this whole cord is spinning. I go up there and straighten it out here in a minute. So it's in. Let's take the adjustable and just tighten it up a little bit. I ain't gotta go crazy on it. I ain't gotta go ham or nothing. Let's see what we got. Crush that washer a little bit so no oxygen or anything gets in there. I think it will. All right, it's in. So as far as everything in here goes, we're done. The only thing we have to do now is we need to go outside the car, hook up the oil pressure sending unit. We're not going to be hooking up the water temp sending unit today for the fact that the 1/8 MPT tap that I needed to actually be able to thread the sensor into where I want to put it did not show up today, and honestly where I'm wanting to put it, I'm not 100% sure it's going to work. It got delayed, the shipping goes anyway, so maybe that's just something telling me I don't need to put it there. But we're gonna go ahead and hook up the oil pressure sending unit, and then when we get done with that, we'll put the interior back up, everything together, and start the car up, make sure everything's gonna work. So we're in the engine bay now, and we're gonna be putting the oil pressure sending unit for the gauge in. And from where I was gonna tap into, well, somebody already has, because there's a oil pressure sending unit for another gauge. Not really sure what kind, but anyway, we're gonna basically pull that guy out and put that guy in. And we're gonna be using Teflon tape as thread sealant, that way we don't blow oil everywhere and make my car leak more than it already does. Okay, so I just took the battery out. I was gonna try doing this with the battery since I just calibrated the O2 for the wideband, but I have a feeling it's gonna be a lot harder getting that out with the battery in than it's going to be just recalibrating the wideband, so I'll just recalibrate the wideband. Alright, so we got the cam angle sensor off so we can get to this oil pressure sending unit. Unfortunately, I did crack the coolant feed, just the rubber part, or the hose part for the turbo, so that's not exactly how I wanted that. I'll just go get a piece of hose this week, fix that up, ain't no big deal. And there is the oil pressure switch from, I don't know what gauge that goes to. I imagine not a very good one. Well, it doesn't go to nothing now. Alright, so we got our ground wire on our oil pressure sending unit, the new one for the gauge. Now when we put Teflon on, the way I'm going to do this, you kind of want to go around to the left. And the reason you do this is, as while you're threading it in, it's not trying to unthread on you. The other way, it's just going to be kicking your butt and making you hate your life as you go to put it in. So there you go. So basically, as I screw it in, it's going to pull that way and hold the Teflon in. And we're good to go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the battery back in, and then we're going to get in the car and then recalibrate that sensor, and then we're going to be good. So let's go ahead and do all that real quick and we'll be alright. Get the seat, the carpet, and everything right. I'm not going to put the center console back just yet. That's actually where I'm going to be mounting the module, and I'm not going to put it in until I'm ready to mount the module. I'm not going to be doing that today. But when I do mount that, I'll be putting that back in. I'm just not sure where I want to mount it. I want it where I can see it, but where it's kind of like not in the way. So let's get in the car. We're going to start everything up and then see how it works. I'm not going to let it run too long for the fact that I broke the coolant feed for the turbo. Congratulations to me. But let's see what we got. Alright guys, so we got it running. The wideband's working like it's supposed to. And then the oil pressure gauge, everything's working absolutely awesome. This thing's extremely rich starting up. That's fine. We haven't hooked this one up yet. We are going to. I'm not going to be able to let it run long enough to see if this right here, the wideband, evens out for the fact that I have coolant pouring everywhere from the coolant feed that I broke. But the oil pressure gauge is working absolutely perfect. We got great oil pressure. So I'm really happy with that. So we got the oil pressure gauge working. We got the wideband working. Everything's working absolutely beautifully other than the water temp gauge. Excuse me, I'm probably gonna stutter. I'm freezing cold right now. It's just so cold out here. But anyway, I got everything working that I wanted to other than the water temp gauge. As soon as the 1/8 MPT tap gets here to do that, we'll get that put in. But I wasn't able to do that, make threads for it. But I'm extremely happy everything worked. Unfortunately, I can't drive it or anything. One, it ain't got wheels, and two, I broke the coolant feed line for the turbo, which pretty much dumped all the coolant out on the floor. So I'm going to get that fixed, and then later on this week I got something really awesome coming for the SRT4. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. If you got a comment, drop it in the comment section below. And if you do this, don't break your coolant feed line for your turbo. Alright guys, thanks for watching Nitro Kid 98.